I'm Eileen Chapman. I'm the director of the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music at Monmouth University, and we are sitting in the archive house on the campus. Now we have a small space. It is a 4-room Cape Cod style house that houses a lot of artifacts and archives. We will be building a 20 to 25,000 square foot new building that will house not only the archives and make archive research rooms available to the public, but also 4 exhibit spaces and a 240-seat theater. So when we first approached Bruce about housing his archives here at Monmouth University, one of the things he told us was that he didn't want this just to be about himself. He indicated that he is just a chapter in the landscape of American music, and so this archives and museum should be much more than just a Bruce Springsteen archives. One of our exhibit spaces will be dedicated to American music. We need to tell the story of American music, and we'll do that through programming, through kiosks, and through exhibits. One of the exhibit spaces will be traveling exhibits, so we'll be able to take traveling exhibits from other museums like the Grammy Museum, the Smithsonian, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and others who travel exhibits. Then we'll have an exhibit space that will focus on Bruce Springsteen, and an exhibit space on the E Street Band. And then finally, we'll be recreating Bruce's writing room and library that he had in his home in Rumson. It's where he wrote many of his songs. And we'll be recreating that into a room as well, so people can actually take a look at where the creative process happened.
The idea for the Bruce Springsteen Special Collection grew out of a very distressed lunchtime conversation between Chris Phillips, the editor of Backstreets, and myself in June of 2001. It was a wide-ranging conversation, but we discovered early on that we were both upset, worried, concerned that so many historically vital documents from early in Bruce's career, including concert reviews from small venues, were disappearing into private collections. And because nobody seemed to be doing anything about preserving them for the sake of history, we asked ourselves, was it realistic to think about organizing a volunteer group of fans to identify, collect, archive those early documents, as many of those early documents as possible before it was too late.
So in 2001, I was invited to the Asbury Park Library for the opening of a Bruce Springsteen special collection. It was the brainchild of Chris Phillips from Backstreets magazine. Because he had a worldwide reach, he had decided to ask Springsteen fans to donate materials to Backstreets, to this special collection, and he would find a place to house them and make them available and accessible.
Within 6 months, we knew that we needed to find a location where we could begin to store the documents, where we could work once we'd been trained as archivists. None of us were, but we got a grant from the state to be trained. And so we needed a place where we could both store and do the archival work. And that's when Asbury Park City Councilwoman Kate Molina stepped up. Kate understood what Asbury Park means to Bruce and what Bruce means to Asbury Park. And perhaps equally important, what music tourism can and should mean to Asbury Park. The impact of music, concerts, historic buildings, and even the concept of a special collection, as if it was in fact in Asbury Park. So she approached the director of the Asbury Park Public Library about hosting the collection. And we dedicated it on December 8th, 2001, basically 6 months after Chris and I first conceptualized this.
It was 700 pieces. And people from around the world actually came to the opening. There were people from Germany and England who came to this opening of this Bruce Springsteen Special Collection. An organization was formed around maintaining the collection, helping the library. It was the Friends of the Bruce Springsteen Collection, and they worked on this for several years.
3 years after the dedication, Kate Molina, who was a thoughtful, progressive member of the city council, left the council. Things for us at the library very quickly turned sour. The library director turned against us. No other way to say it.
So I had reached out to one of the organizers, Bob Crane, and asked if they would consider maybe bringing this collection to Monmouth.
She was somebody that we needed to consult with. Who do we reach out to? And she's always been very, very helpful to us in that regard.
Bob Santelli had come in to have a conversation with President Gaffney, who was the president at the time, and explained to him how important it was for this collection to come to Monmouth University, that it needed to remain in Monmouth County. It needed to be here on the Monmouth University campus. This campus was among the earliest college venues where Bruce and his band had performed. They played here 9 times. They had a home here. And so Bob and I really fought for this collection to come here to Monmouth.
And in February of 2009, I got an email from Eileen. And she asked if we would be interested in relocating to Monmouth. Well, I said yes, particularly given the fact that Bruce had a long concert history at Monmouth University, which was important to us. We didn't want to just go anywhere. We wanted to go someplace relevant. It opened the door for us bringing our material to Monmouth. Eventually, the library, the Asbury Park Library, agreed to turn over everything that was at the library. So by 2011, everything was back together again at Monmouth in a small building which had once been the residence for football coaches. And we were once again able to resume our work as archivists, at which point we had thousands of documents, a backlog.
In 2016, Bob and I started to talk, and Bob thought, let's approach Bruce Springsteen and see if he might be interested in bringing his personal papers here as well. You know, there were places where musicians were donating their artifacts. Bob reached out to John Landau, Bruce's manager, who then reached out to Bruce and Patty. Bob went out and had a conversation with them about bringing the archives, Bruce's personal papers, here to Monmouth. Bruce jumped on his motorcycle, came over, toured the facility that we're sitting in right now, which is a very small house, but very orderly, and agreed that, yes, he would donate his personal papers here.
2017, the Friends officially donated all the material. It had been on loan to the university up to that point. Officially donated to the university in 2017. That's when the name change
to the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music. And so in 2017, we held a conversation with Bruce Springsteen. It was Bob Santelli and Bruce Springsteen, where Bruce announced we would be his official repository.
It became really clear that the Friends were on the threshold of something big happening, and that was the proper time for the Friends to reach the conclusion that it was time to formally turn everything over to the university.
So, although we are right now housing Bruce Springsteen artifacts, we are beginning to tell the story of American music through programming and exhibits. You know, we accept donations of artifacts here in the archives. Much of this collection grew through people's personal donations.
The ultimate merger of Bruce's personal papers with our collection will deepen and enrich the ability of researchers, fans alike, to assess the totality of his life, his philosophy, his incredible performances, his talent, his songwriting abilities. And that in and of itself is indispensable. And I think with Bob Santilli at the helm, the collection will put Bruce's contribution to American music in a proper context, the influences of others on him, his influence on others. It's going to put that all together in one place, which is indispensable. I'm thrilled. Well, if you'll allow me, I'm going to crib a line from Bono at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. He gave the induction speech for Bruce, and at one point he said, "They call him the boss." Well, that's a bunch of crap.
He's not
the
boss.
boss.
He works for us. More than a boss, he's the owner. Because more than anyone else, Bruce Springsteen owns America's heart.
And I think that's the legacy. And that's what the collection reveals about Bruce Springsteen. And it's all going to be there in New Jersey for anyone who wants to see, hear, and understand what this is all about.
This archives began in the Asbury Park Library. Will always be connected because of that.
But if there are other impressive fan-based archives, I don't know of them. I doubt that there are many of this magnitude.
The Asbury Park music scene will always be a part of the archives.